everyone. Welcome to the Booze and Boobs podcast. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Katrina. Thanks for joining us today as we talk about some of our favorite horror movies.
We created this podcast as a way to give women more of a voice in horror. Men dominate most industries, especially film and television.
And that also goes for podcasts. We'll focus on female characters, motivations, or just expectations placed on women in horror, even if the situation is happening to a man.
We're excited you're here and we hope you love it.
Now let's get to today's movie.
Welcome. The titles for the two movies that we will be discussing this episode that have absolutely nothing to do with the two movies we thought we would be discussing this month are vaguely threatening. And for the state of our world, I'm not mad at that.
Not at all.
So we're just gonna jump right into the beginning discussion of two movies that we're comparing kind of together. That would be the 2011 movie You're Next and the 2019 movie Ready or Not. And Katrina, you had only seen You're Next before this, is that right?
Yes. So I had seen Your Next one time, and then I had heard of Ready or Not, but I had never seen it. Which is probably why every time I read or say Ready or Not, the song instantly pops up in my head.
What song?
Ready or not, here I come. I'm gonna find you.
Is that Selena Gomez?
I don't know. Is it?
If it is, we're done professionally.
I have no idea who it is. I don't know who the artist is. I just feel the vibe and I put it out.
Okay, it's not. It says it's the Fugees. It said it's a song from 2010,
I mean, that sounds right.
1996? Huh? I'm confused. I don't care. That's not part of the podcast. It's not. Oh, there's a song called from Bridget Mendler from 2012. I can see why I might have thought that was Selena Gomez. We can stay friends. It's okay.
Thank you.
What did you think then? So you hadn't seen Your Next in a long time, and then I brought up it's similar and often compared with Ready or Not. So right off the top, what are your thoughts?
So it had been long enough that I forgot like a little bit of the plot twist of Your Next. So it was kind of like rewatching it all over again.
It got me so good. The first one, I was like, huh?
But you know what's crazy? Yuri called it. She's like, he's bad. And I'm like, how do you know? I just feel
Yuri
it.
just knows.
She does.
Good for her.
I felt like it kind of fit our November-ish theme of
Terror,
getting together
horror,
with family.
The call is coming from inside the house. Everything's bad.
Yeah, November.
Guys, I tell you,
shit show.
I did not. God, when we were joking about the purge election year, I didn't know how much I really thought things were going to go a different way.
As of November 6th, the joke was over. The
Nobody's laughing.
I'm not.
But I don't want to talk about it because we come to this place to avoid reality.
That's why we're talking about movies.
Movies where women fuck shit up and get shit done.
Exactly.
Do you
even if they're prepared or not?
Ready or not? Here I come. You're next. I'll give like a really basic run through for everyone who hasn't watched this. Typical Rachel warning. If you haven't seen it, don't listen to me. I hate spoilers. Anyways, Your Next is a movie where final girl Erin is going to her boyfriend's parents like extra house that they have for to celebrate the parents' anniversary. So the whole family's there, and then they're attacked by men in animal masks and killed off one by one. And then it's revealed that Aaron's boyfriend and another one of his brothers actually set up this whole murder situation. That way they could collect on their parents' inheritance.
Ooh.
Then Ready or Not is where Grace marries into the Lado Moss family, and her husband says at midnight, the night of the wedding, um, you have to play a game. You don't have to win, you just have to play. And then it just so happens that the game that they have a card to draw that gets drawn is hide and seek. And hide and seek is the one game where it's not just like one of them said, like, I think backgammon and chess, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
whatever other games that they had to play, like dumb games. If you draw the hide and seek card, that's like a thing with their family where they will actually hunt you down, and if they find you, they kill you. If you play any other game, you're just playing a game, you don't know anything about it. But that's what's going on. So, of course, we had to have a plot for the movie. So they drew hide and seek.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've given a very, very basic summation, do you have one that you liked better? Just something that you related to more?
Honestly, I feel like even though I know that we're comparing these movies, they're very different. So like liking one more than the other, they're not in this like they're both horror technically, but I think I liked Ready or Not more because it was like the horror comedy. And so like you got those breaks every now and then. But I really liked in your next that Aaron was just a badass. So I'm kind of torn. More fun to watch. Honestly, now that I think about it, I don't know. They're kind of a tie for me.
Yeah. I think that they're both around an hour and a half movies. They both lean very heavy into like the black comedy. Like at first, when the family's being like attacked in Your Next, they're like making jokes about like which kid is gonna try to make a run for it, and then you have the kids fighting. They're all adults,
Oh
but
my
are like, "No,
God.
I'm faster than you. You're faster. No, you did this as a kid." Blah blah blah. And they're just like bickering, which is hilarious. Um, also feels very grounded for how you a person would act with their family, not characters.
Hmm.
And then you have in Ready or Not, the family is the one doing the attempting murder. And like the daughter in that one, Emily, like accidentally shoots a maid. And then she's like, I don't know what I'm doing, like playing with the gun and
I'm
stuff
so
like that.
bad at this.
So you get like some real moments of levity, but it also feels very real. So I think that those are things why they get compared. I mean, the very basic comparison, rich families, there's murders happening in creative ways, most of them being inside of the mansion.
Hmm.
I guess there's kind of a twist in both.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And then we've got our
Of-
final girls.
Who pulled it out in the end?
Yeah, there's a lot of like, I mean, badassery is a word, but like setting traps, double back. We're gonna have to talk about the
Oh,
real good double back.
yes. Well, and not only that, but in both movies, the final girl is the only one who lives, period, in both movies.
True.
At the end of this, when the police show up, because they do, what do you say? No one, no one's gonna believe the true story. So, like, what do you even say to the people who are like, "Are you okay? What happened?"
Well, and that's kind of what I think. So, spoiler alert, they both survive. The
Mm,
second one, or the second one, the Ready or Not, it has a sequel that was just kind of announced, and Samara Weaving is acting in it.
Mm.
So I'm just curious because they announced that, I don't know, a month or so ago. And I'm like, how? What are we gonna do here?
I mean, my thought was, does she inherit everything?
That
Because
I get,
she just married him, but like the paperwork hadn't even gone through yet. It was still same day.
I don't know what's what. I have
Yeah.
no idea what the story could possibly be. Um, I have some trivia facts as we're going through for each. I've seen both movies more than once, not recently, but I watched both of them one time, and then I watched while I was working today, I watched a kill count on both just to be like, let me just get like some quick facts about this. Like I know stuff, but I'm working here.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited. I think that this is we need some like positive female characters right now. We need some strong women. We need some
Mm-hmm.
badassery. We also need to murder men
Yeah. Not worship the
for
devil.
legal reasons. That's a joke. Yeah, the Satanism. I'm out of here with that.
Can we
Fuck
not do
that.
that? Thank you.
So it was a little funny at the end, but we will discuss
I,
that.
yeah, we'll get there. But I think one of the biggest differences that I thought was these are two rich families, but I get very different rich people vibes. Like you mentioned old money versus like new money. The Ladamas family from Ready or Not, they're old money. Like they're generation after generation of like continuing this sacrifice and everything like that to appease the devil, basically. And then You're Next, it feels more like that family kind of like built themselves up a little bit because the dad bought the house for his retirement like hobby to
I
like
guess that's true. They make a saying in the first one that the dad had retired from like government defense contract work.
hmm
So like I'm sure they had money. Like no one really seems like as impressed the same way that Aaron does coming into it. But I think yeah, you're right. The other family they have their generational thing.
yeah, and you can tell by their demeanor that they're like the Ladamas family, like their shit don't stink. You're nothing to me if you're not part of this family, if you're not making me money, like I don't give a shit.
They're also
Whereas,
very desperate to keep it too.
yeah, I feel like you can definitely tell a difference between the parents because in Your Next, Paul and Aubrey seemed like really warm, like genuine individuals, like that are truly affected by what's happening to the family. In contrast
You
to
mean watching their
where,
kids die?
yeah, I mean, people die in general. Like, it's, I guess they weren't part of the killing, like in Ready or Not. So, like, they didn't really have a chance to, like, harden themselves, kind of like the Ledomas family did.
Yeah, I see that.
One,
They just experienced it. I mean, they were also, I
yeah,
mean, that's kind of like, the difference between being the hunter or being the hunted. Ooh,
yeah.
look at me,
And
I'm so
it's,
deep.
oh, and The Hunt was one of the movies we talked about doing for November, and we didn't. Which I thought it was a funny movie. I liked it, but it was not horror, in my opinion.
Well,
I don't know if
that's
you watched
okay.
it or not.
I didn't. I kept meaning
Okay.
to, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, I need to watch that. Anyway,
Well, I will say, one thing that the families do have in common is that they are both delusional, in my opinion, about either how great their families are or how strong their family bond is. It's kind of like, how deluded are these people to think that, like, I don't know, the dynamics, I guess maybe everybody's a little bit delusional when it comes to their family.
or like, what do you mean?
Well, I feel like Paul and Aubrey in Your Next felt like they had really great kids and everybody was doing like amazing things. I mean, obviously the dad was a little bit judgmental, but I mean that's what dads do. But I'm like, you're maybe all parents feel like that. I'm not a parent. Do most parents feel like their kids are better than they actually are?
I feel like
I don't know.
the family, okay, so the family in your next, like they did make a big deal, like, we're so happy you guys could come.
Hmm.
It's really awesome that you guys took the time to come and celebrate us because it's their anniversary. Like I don't think that they think that all their kids are perfect. I think they're just all humans, and I think that they're parents and they're just like, we love our kids. And uh, we don't. So, okay, so for both of these movies, there's a large cast overall.
Hmm.
Um, in your next, we're whittling down very quickly, because the whole point of the movie is that it's not just a home invasion slasher. It kind of turns into maybe the last 15 minutes or so, maybe 20 minutes, that like most of the family's dead at that point.
Hmm.
And then in Ready or Not, the murders that we're getting are outsiders, like it's their maids,
Hmm.
and then the family all dies at the end. So like we've got the
Which,
inverse with that. Oh, what was the point of me saying that? We were just talking about them being like families and stuff.
mhm.
I don't know. I'm sorry. Maybe I bulldozed that, but that was a point. That was something that came to my mind, but now I lost where I was going with it. I don't have any idea.
It happens to the best of us. So, in your kill count, do you know how many people died in each movie?
Uh, well, based on the character list you did, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I guess it would be 15 in Ready or Not if you include like that flashback beginning scene where that
Hmm.
husband died.
Right.
And then in your next, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Re-
Yeah, because your next, everybody
Oh,
dies except
same.
Aaron. So there's the two neighbors in the very beginning and then the cop at the end.
Right. And the three
So,
masked men and the, yeah.
and then the family.
Wow. In
Also,
I did not expect
also,
that to be even.
also consider, so
Oh,
we'll
did you include the children at the end in Ready or Not?
yes.
Oh, that is
I
including the
I
children.
included the three maids, the two kids, the butler, the parents, the siblings, and the aunt.
And the
That's
husband.
50. Well, I included him
Yeah,
in the
and
siblings.
oh, he's in the siblings. Oh,
He's in
okay.
the siblings. And
Yeah.
then, but also, okay, so the I know I summarized it, but like the plot of Ready or Not is Grace marries into Alex's family. They're board game billionaires. Like that's their family dynasty product, is that they make board games and stuff. So that's why it's so significant that when you join the family, you play a game. And the dad, Tony, tells the story when they're like first introducing like the gaming ritual or whatever, that whatever their great grandpa, whatever, um, met Mr. LaBelle
Hmm.
on a ship, and LaBelle had this like puzzle box. And since Granddaddy Moss solved it, LaBelle, basically like gave him wealth and power. Like that's his thing. So whenever somebody enters the family, they have to play a game in order to keep like their power. Like that's
Hmm.
their thing.
That's the ritual that they have to perform.
Yeah. And then if you just so happen to pull the hide and seek card, you have to sacrifice that new family member to Mr. LaBelle, Bale. is also another name for Satan. It's spelled a little differently, and they add like the label to like make it a thing, but they're like, hey, it's the devil. And they're
Hmm.
also in the end when they're trying to do the ritual, Aunt Helene does say Hail Satan. What is it with Hail Satan in these movies? I hate that.
I'm telling you. Well, and then even Alex said it before he went to go try and stab her.
Ugh, yeah, yeah. We can definitely discuss that.
Mm.
Um, so the twist, because the family's like bickering the whole time while they're hunting Grace down and like, doing their own things. I remember why I was talking about this is the whole point of me like talking about like the family differences and like the beginning and the end. Every character, for the most part, like they're all performed really well, but they're all like very like specific, like typecast characters.
Hmm.
Like, so it's easy as an audience when you have such a large ensemble that's with you for a decent amount of time. You're like, I know you, I know you, I know you, like, just so you can relate to somebody. So, in both of them, the whole families die. Like, they're gone. So, I do wonder about the inheritance since Grace and Alex did get married. And then with your next, I mean, they were killing their family to have their inheritance quicker, and then no siblings, so the brothers got a bigger portion.
Hmm.
But now they're all dead, so I mean, like,
Yeah.
what happens to that? So,
Just
like,
goes to
really,
if there's nobody else, I guess it just goes to the state or whatever.
yeah. And then the family in Ready or Not, like, they're bickering about, like, how do we even know, like, we really need to kill somebody? Like, I think one of them's like, she got hurt, like, we caught her, like, isn't that enough?
Hmm.
And
Or they
then
tried to use a servant, like, oh, can we just use Clara? Like, she's already dead. Let's just use her.
yeah, like how they want to use Clara. It's really interesting and like you're wondering the whole time like the some of the family is so convinced that they have to do this murder sacrifice. Some people are like, "Oh my God," like they're playing the game but they're like this is dumb. Like we don't need to do this. Like
Hmm.
this is a superstition. We're fine. And the stakes are the family needs to find Grace and perform their ritual and kill her before sunrise, or the family's gonna die. And then the sun rises. We've already spoiled it. Grace has not died yet. She's gotten very, very close a few times.
Hmm.
Um, but she is not dead. And then like somebody opens the curtains and everyone's like wincing. They're like, "Oh God, like we're gonna die." And then they're all kind of standing around like uh-oh, like we just like almost tried to kill somebody for no reason. That's not good. And then someone's like, well, what are we gonna do about Grace? And then
Yeah.
Aunt Helene like has her battle axe and she's like, she must die. And then as she's going to try to kill Grace, she explodes.
Evaporates like
Like kaboom.
blood and pieces.
Yeah, I saw like so it's like a meat cannon, but they used like a syrup and then like mashed banana to get like the chunky texture
Mm.
of like exploded body chunks. And then they just like one by one explode. So then it's like ha 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 ha. Like the curse was real,
Yeah. I
but it's
liked
just
that
like
ending.
done very funny.
Yeah, because up until that point, you're kind of like, well, no, none of the family, other than like Alex, obviously, had died. So it's like, what happens at this point? Like, and then they all start exploding, and I was like, honestly, I love it. I'm so I'm glad they're all
It's
like
super funny.
gone.
Like even Grace at the very end, and we will discuss like, the emotional weight of what's going on with everything. But she's just kind of looking around. She's like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of like laughs at one point and then like snorts. Don't blame her. I get it,
No,
girl.
these people just
She,
tried to kill you for the past 5 or 6 hours. Like, fuck them.
Yeah, because and it has only been like 5 or 6 hours because like you have to the game ceremony starts at midnight. So midnight is when they met everyone. And that's
Mm-hmm.
how I think like that's her wedding day. So I don't know what time the wedding was, but it was at their house, which was actually like the Billy Madison house. Like that set, like it's just a really, really nice house that has like a long like courtyard with that little fountain thing. So if you've seen Billy Madison, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Um I mean, it's your wedding day. You get up really early. You got to get ready. You got to do hair, makeup, get dressed. Then you have your wedding. And then I assume they had some kind of a reception. Grace talked about being a foster kid. So, like, this was really important to her to have a family. Alex, her husband, they have a moment before the wedding where he's like, we've only been together 18 months. Like, my family's crazy. If you want an out or you don't want to get married, like, it's okay because he knows the risk of what could happen. And Alex he sucks. Like, you feel so bad in the beginning and then you get so mad at the end.
And I was gonna ask you, who do you think is worse, Alex or Crispin?
Ooh.
I wanted to compare the shitty partners because Crispin was an active participant. I say active, he's a pussy. Active participant in setting this up, but he couldn't handle the blood, so he left.
Yeah, he
And he
went to
left
find help.
and he left his girlfriend there, which if she was, I guess she had to be the witness or whatever. But like, and then when he came back, he tried to smooth talk her into splitting the inheritance, getting their story straight, blah blah blah. And she kills him.
Well, he
Um,
shouldn't have been standing there.
well, and what's fucked up is she kills him, but then the cop sees it and shoots her. I'm like, oh shit.
No. I know,
But
shoots her in the
then,
shoulder.
and then he starts going towards the front door, which she booby trapped with an axe, like Home Alone style paint can, and he just straight to the forehead and he died. So that's oopsies. So that's Crispin. He wasn't really in the movie that much. He really wasn't that active, but he knew that she would be traumatized by this, even though she wasn't supposed to get hurt. Alex knew, didn't inform her, and then tried to save her, quote unquote. Like
Well,
throughout, he
okay.
was trying. Like he was like, let me get you out of here. Let me turn the security cameras off. Let me unlock the doors. But then, as soon as she found out what was happening and Crispin
Grace.
realized, yes, as soon as Grace found out what was happening, sorry, and Alex realizes she's not gonna stay with me after this, the switch just clicked.
So I think there's another piece of that that's worth a discussion. So let's break it down between Ready or Not and your next. So for Ready or Not with Grace and Alex as the married couple, part of me says Alex is not as bad as Crispin in one sense. I think they both suck. So Alex in the beginning gives Grace an out to not marry him, does not inform her. There is the potential when we play this game, if hide and seek is pulled, you have to die. But also, how do you say that to somebody? Because there's also like both of his siblings are married and they got old maid and like backgammon or whatever. So there's also the chance he never needs to tell her. So there's like if you want to play LaBelle's advocate for Alex, it it might not have gone that way in terms of character land. In movie land, obviously we knew it was going to happen. Um, and in the beginning, he's trying as soon as the card gets pulled And like she goes to hide, but then she like is like, I don't want to hide in this dumbwaiter forever. Let me go, you know, look around. Like she's not taking this seriously because she doesn't know it's serious. All they've said is that she just has to hide till dawn. She goes into their bedroom and then Alex finds her and he's like, "No, no, the game's for real. My my family has this sick thing. They're going to try to murder you." She doesn't believe him until he pulls her down to hide when they hear something, and his sister Emily shot one of the maids thinking it was Grace. So now Grace knows this is for real. Alex tries to, he takes her through like a servant tunnel and tells her it's for real. And he's like, I'm going to get you out of here. We're going to run away. We're going to be together. Grace is still like, okay, this is a good plan. We will be together and safe. And then Alex, of course, like ends up getting stopped. Grace is still on her survival journey. It's after Alex finds his older brother Daniel dying, even though it was his wife that shot him, because the two spouses, the outside spouses of the siblings, they're all into this. Mostly Daniel's wife Charity is more because she's like she's telling her husband, she's like, you know where I came from. Like, I'm not giving this life up. Like, I don't care if it's not the real sacrifice, just in case it is. I'm down for murder. Like, I want this lifestyle more than I want anything else. And Emily's husband, Fitch, is kind of like a blowhard, like douchey. Like he's Katrina was talking, we were talking about earlier. He's sitting in the bathroom, like on his phone, trying to figure out how to use a crossbow because that was the weapon given to him. Like it's very funny, but he's like, well, yeah, I'm down for this. Like it's fine. So it's different. But then but Alex was very close to his brother. He sees his brother dying, not knowing Daniel was trying to help Grace because he has like a guilty conscience. And then Alex stumbles upon Grace killing his mom. So there's a theory Alex thinks Grace killed Daniel too. So that's when he like kind of turns on her and then he's like, "Well, we have to finish the ritual. Like you won't be with me now that you know all of this stuff." And she's like, "Well, duh." So he's like, "Well, if I can't have you, then at least I'll have the rest of my family and all our money."
which is
So,
valid. I think that I know Grace pushed to like, I want a family, blah, 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 blah. You can do that without a legal marriage.
okay, but for the foster kid, and they like she had never met the family like really before the wedding. She just was pushing like, I want to be with you. I need stability. And Alex was estranged from his family because that's one thing that his mom, Becky, played by Andy McDowell, like says to her, you know, they have a moment before the wedding where the mom comes up and she's like, "Hey, like I married into this. I know they're crazy, but you just gotta like stand tall and fuck them." Because everyone else is
Hmm.
like all mean to her, like, you don't belong. You're not one of us, blah blah blah.
Yeah, gold
Which,
digger, do.
but they also say that like with Charity, she's like, you know where I came from. So I have to assume she didn't come from money either. Like, were they so hateful to her? And maybe
I don't know. I
Fitch?
feel like she just fit in, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Fitch is different because one, he's a man. I feel
Yuck.
like getting accepted into new families is easier as a man because people, in my opinion, put harder judgments on women than they do men. Like,
Bullshit.
especially when it's like boy moms gross me out a little bit. Like, oh, I'm a boy mom. I've been seeing a lot of that on TikTok and it weirds me out. It's a
Hmm.
weird vibe. But like, I feel mothers of sons are harder on the daughter-in-laws than mothers of daughters who have new son-in-laws.
I completely agree.
So being a son-in-law is much easier than being a daughter-in-law. So Fitch just kind of did whatever he wanted because Emily is also like the very much spoiled brat. Like, Daddy, my gun doesn't work right. I don't know how to do this. Give me a
I
different
know, and he's
weapon.
like,
Like,
I know, princess, it's okay. Which, like, I love and wish my dad loved me. Emily is funny. She's like coked out. Like her
completely
Emily
lost
is
it.
married to Fitch and they have two boys. I don't know. For whatever reason, they couldn't actually make the wedding, but they get there that night. But they're still dressed like they were gonna go to a wedding. So I'm like, did you travel in that full length dress
Mhm.
and a tux? Like, where were you? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Everybody is still in what they wore to the wedding, like all dressed up. Grace is in her wedding dress the whole time. It like gradually gets like torn and like bloodied and stuff as it goes. So like the dress is also a transition of the story. But I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, like the first thing I feel like I'd do, I'd be like, where are my sweatpants? I was like, oh, we're gonna go play a
absolutely.
game. Like, okay, like, I'm sitting here in my
I'm
sweatshirt, my
competitive.
ball cap. I'm like, I got my slippers on, my Simba slippers. Let's play.
If it's one thing, two things about me. One, I am competitive.
True.
Two, if it comes to a game, board game, sport, card game, I don't care. I'm taking it down and it's serious.
Hmm.
It's not, sure, it can be fun, but I'm gonna win.
Yeah,
And
like
that's
I'm
so
playing
like
a
if
game,
I
but I
know,
didn't come to play.
yeah. So if I'm I'm like they're like, "Oh, you got hide and seek." Okay, well, first of all, bitches, I'm wearing a wedding dress and heels. Let me change real quick and then we can start this game because you can play chess in a dress, but hide and seek, no, not happening.
Yeah. So that's
Mm-mm.
just like one thing. But the way that Emily and Grace like first meet, Grace like, you know, itches her lip telling Emily, "You got a little coke up there under your
Mm-hmm.
nose."
And she's like, "We're gonna be great friends, Emily."
She's so I really love Okay, I prefer the cast of characters in Ready or Not because it's just all a little more dramatic and fun. But Your Next definitely has like good, solid archetypal characters to like easily pick out what's what.
I have to say, when I was watching Your Next and the family all got to the country house and they all started hanging out and stuff like that, I could not wait for them to start dying. I was so annoyed. And I don't know exactly what it was. It was mainly
Drake, the older
Drake
brother.
Drake. Oh, I wanted to punch him in the fucking face. And then like I did like Amy. She was fun. When she so I feel like Amy and Emily, oh, very similar names, honestly, um, have somewhat of a similar character role because when the death when the first death of was it Tariq? After Tariq dies and they're all like huddled up in the little entryway in front of the door trying to figure out who's gonna run outside because I think Drake had also gotten shot in the shoulder.
He got an
So
arrow
like
like in like
he's
the back
yeah.
shoulder.
So like he's incapacitated at the moment. And they're all fighting about who's the fastest runner. This. And then Drake, who is bleeding and in pain, makes another fat joke towards Crispin. And I'm like, can you for 1 second shut the fuck up? Like you're not helping the situation.
But that's also like part of the humor because Aaron and Crispin get to like their mom and dad's house like the night before everybody else gets there. So we get like, the character meeting. And then Aaron's talking to brother Drake and his wife Kelly in the morning. Crispin comes down, and then Drake and Crispin, like they immediately are going at it. Like I don't know if like you can tell like there's just like not as much cohesion in the family, but it's like they also feel like siblings. Like Drake's immediately like, how can I embarrass Crispin? Like, oh, he was fat when he was a kid. And then he's like, I'm not fat, I just have a round face. And then they're joking later. And Crispin's like, yeah, I'm really fast. And Drake's like hunched over a chair with an arrow sticking out of his back. His wife's like scream crying, like trying to help him. Drake makes another fat joke, and then Crispin's like, I lost all my baby weight, Drake, shut the fuck up. It's so funny to watch. Like, I loved it.
It maybe it was the fact that it was so chaotic. Like there's like 17 things happening in this entryway right now, and I'm just like everybody's screaming over each other, yelling, fighting, crying, all these things. And I'm like, if in this situation somebody just needs to yell, shut the fuck up. Let's talk about this calmly. Like, I don't know. I feel like Erin was like fresh, new into this. So she was like gauging the waters of like, um, I'm gonna see how the family wants to do this. But then eventually when she realized how serious it was, she's like, all right, listen, I'm in charge. Y'all are listening to me. Don't do nothing else. And I'm like, that's what you should have done from the beginning. But needless to say, Amy convinces her dad. She's like, I can do it, Daddy. I can do it. He's like, I know you can. You're so fast.
I know.
And I'm just like, oh, so cute. And so we get this like slow motion shot of Amy charging up to go run. Her brother and dad are like opening up the door and she's sprinting, and then she just gets clotheslined by a metal wire and gets her throat cut and she bleeds
Whoa.
out. And I'm like,
Like
bruh,
the way
that
they
is
saw
not
everything.
that that is not what I was thinking was gonna happen.
Oh God, it's so insane. So, like, I mean, that movie goes so hard, so fast because they're at the dinner table, like they're having their family dinner for the anniversary, and Crispin and Drake are going at it because Drake, like, all sly brings up that Aaron and Crispin, like, he's like, oh, like, weren't you his TA? Like, just
Oh,
starting shit. And
mm-hmm.
they're like going back and forth, and the mom's like, okay, boy, like, calm down. Like, we just want to have a nice dinner. And then Tariq, Amy's boyfriend, who is played by Ty West, the writer director of X, Pearl, and Maxine. He's done some
Oh.
other stuff. And actually the guy who's in, I think it's the Lamb like mask, the killer, he's the writer of this movie. So there's just a lot of like it's like cool. It's like new horror people like all working together on the project thing. Like I don't know, I just think that that's cool. Fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
But Tariq, he gets up. He just like he looks like he's seen something outside the window. He gets up from the table. He's like moving around, and then it, like crossbow like whoop to the face. So
Yeah.
ooh, that changes the family dynamics a little bit.
Yeah. No warning either. Like it was just, and then everybody's like standing up, screaming, and I'm like,
Well, okay, but like what do you
and
do?
then
What do you do? You don't expect that. Also, they're out in the middle of fucking nowhere. They've said that a million times. Like, what's going on?
right. And
And
it's like they keep shooting the arrows in until finally Aaron is like, grab a chair, run across, like, let's close the blinds, let's get this all locked up. I'm like, somebody needed to take charge. And I'm so glad Aaron was there. And I think it's funny because when shit started to hit the fan, there was a point early in the movie where Crispin was like, I've never seen this side of you before. Like, well, you've also never seen her get attacked. This is all new situation for both of you. Um, but little did Crispin know that Erin grew up in like a survivalist situation with her father, who was like, thought the world was gonna end. She was gonna have to fight for everything. And he brought the wrong girl home to stage a murder of his whole family and use her as like a alibi.
it's a lot happening over in that house because I personally struggle a little bit with Your Next. I think it's really good. I really, really like it. I like the family dynamics. And this movie is kind of like the answer to anyone who's like shouting at the screen, like, huh, you need to do this and this and this. Like, I think characters a lot of times are written to be like normal people. And like, you give Erin like the survivalist compound background, which is great. And it allows her to be super level-headed, think of every scenario. Like she goes to put like water in a pot and boil it to use as a weapon. She's grabbing a meat tenderizer, all the knives. She's in training Z on how to make like nails through a floorboard as like a trap for somebody to step on, like home aloneing the house. And these are things I think if somebody like in a stressful situation that like needed to do something like this could come up with, but a lot of times there's a lot of emotion, and not everyone is just thinking like I have to do all of this like offense things, like they're really in defense mode. So Aaron's like the hero of like anything that you can think of that somebody should do in a movie to protect themselves, they do. And she does it so well, and she's a really great character. I just feel like this, in comparison to some other things, like makes other people look bad. And it's like, at every moment, are you just thinking like, oh, I need to put nails through a board of wood and trap the window? No.
Well, and I think part of Erin's like something that is kind of adds to her favor is that she doesn't know these people. She doesn't have the connection or the emotional connection to these people that the others do. Like the mother is so distraught that they have to take her up to the bedroom so that she can lie down because she's losing it because her daughter just died, Amy. And then eventually Paul, who I love Paul and I love Aubrey, the parents in this movie, honestly. Um, Paul's like, oh, you better go check up on your mom and stuff like that. And like he's he's also really affected by what's happening. But because Erin is new to all these people, it's really like she's able to be more clear-headed about it. But also, I guarantee you, like growing up in a survivalist kind of situation traumatized her to be alert and thinking of what's the nearest weapon I can use. So it really heightened her senses and her thinking skills. Because like if you don't practice, it's not going to do you any good. Like especially like with like, oh, I went to a self-defense class 10 years ago. If I get attacked right now, am I going to remember any of that? Probably not. It's not muscle memory, but for her it was. So I could see how Erin being this like badass is like not normal, kind of like how you talked about earlier. Like all of the cast of this is like pretty much like normal people, like people you could see in your everyday life, things like that. But I think part of the plot is that Erin is quote unquote special, is that she's prepared for this situation. Unlike Ready or Not, where Grace is normal and is not prepared at all.
I think just like the feeling I have about it, like she's great, and I think that there's definitely a conversation in like the whole point of like women always feeling like we have to be prepared. Like I'm walking around with my keys that I can use as a weapon, or like I'm not going down a dark alley at night. Something like women are always like more aware
Mm-hmm.
of stuff like that for physical safety. My like with it is just like it feels like the answer to like a fan service thing. Like, oh, here's the badass girl who can just do anything, think of anything. I mean, she doubles back. So like obviously she's perfect. And
Mm-hmm.
she's a great character. She's super endearing. I really, really like Erin. I just think about how other people think about her and how they would think of her as a trope or like a see, you can make movies where girls do stuff. And I'm just like, sometimes it's okay for women to not know stuff. So like I'm not mad at Erin or the writers for making Erin. I'm mad at with the way other people might think about Erin. And I'm like, protect her.
In a way that it would Erin sets the bar too high, and so she's instead of her being the exception to the rule, they're trying to like set, well, why can't you be like Erin? Kind of
Well, yeah, because
expectations.
you have someone watch the movie, it's like, don't go down there, don't do that. Like, people do make some dumb decisions in movies. I feel like there's no like right or wrong answer. Like every movie's different, but like with Aaron, you never feel like, oh, don't do that. And I think that that's super valid and it's fresh in some ways. But I just feel like also people do dumb things. And if people aren't prepared, like if I was getting chased by somebody and then like my car blew a tire and I had to try and change it, it just would not be like a super fast thing for me to do. Like figure it out. And it's not that I can't change a tire because I know how to do it, but it has just so happened that every time I have needed to change a tire, like I literally was like pulled up on the side of the road once several years ago and my tire blew and like some man came by in his minivan and he had just done like some family trip he was saying and he had like a gigantic car jack with him, like just so happened that he had brought with
Mm,
him in case his family like needed something. And he's like, I can do that for you like so fast, like just like some nice man on the road. And I was like, oh, like
yeah.
perfect, like I didn't have to do that. So
Yeah, there are some perks to like what's the word?
not knowing,
A
looking like you don't know what you're doing.
little bit. Well, and I've always thought this was funny. So my dad is a mechanic, right? Been a mechanic since he was like 14. I know the basics of car stuff. Like, I know what I need to know to get by. Like, I know how to change a tire. And I had never actually done it. Like, my dad had walked me through, like, this is how you do it. This is what you do. This is how you do it. But I had never physically done it myself until I was like 21. And like, my car was sitting at the house and it went flat. And my fiance at the time was like, "Oh, I'll change it." I was like, "No, I've never done it. Like, just be here with me while I do it to make sure I do it right." And I told my dad about that, and he got pissed because
Oh,
my fiance let me change my own tire. And I tried to defend, like, no, I wanted to do it. And my dad's like, it doesn't matter. Like, very macho. But now that I am with a woman, we bought the truck and the tires needed rotated and a few things. He has me in the shop doing it myself. And these are like giant mud tires that are like, take your tire, multiply it by 2.5. Like,
I
I'm like,
remember
oh,
FaceTiming you while you were doing that, and you had like the little
yes.
like lug nut gun. You were like, shoot, shoot, shoot. Can you hear that? And I'm like, yes.
It's very loud. So it's like now that he knows I'm not with a man anymore, he's like, well, she's gonna have to do the things herself if I don't do them. Like now he's like, he can't be mad if I do it now because like there's no man to do it. I just like this so it's like you can't, it's a double standard for him, I guess.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of double standards on women. I think that there are a lot of double standards on men as well, and that's like
For
a really
sure.
good example because I think that point it's like the chivalry of it. Like I know how to change a tire, but I should never have to change a tire. That's how I feel about
Hmm.
my bills. I should never be paying my own bills. Um, but I mean, I think that that's very interesting, especially when you put it in this thing, especially like you commented previously about the dad in your next, you would almost think that the dad of this large family, government defense contracts, he's probably seen
Hmm.
some shit, even though he seems like a really nice, warm man, like you would probably think that like dad's gonna stand up and be like, I'm in charge here. And I wonder, like, I just postulate the question for the conversation. Do we think he was just so emotionally affected that like he couldn't potentially do that? Or do we think Aaron just came on so strong and he is just like a feminist who supports women in
He's like, you
in
know what? She
power?
knows.
He's like, you can take it, and I'm just gonna go cry a little bit.
I'm
My
gonna go
baby.
cuddle my wife and cry. I think he was so worried about his wife that he couldn't function. Like, I think he felt that his kids, for the most part, can take care of themselves. Like, you guys are able-bodied adults, but my wife is not doing well. So, like, he's trying to balance, like, oh, I need to be there for my family and take charge, but I'm so worried about Aubrey. Like, he couldn't balance it well. So I think when Aaron popped up, he was kind of like all right, good, you take it. I'm a split and I see my dead wife. Not that he knew she was dead yet, but it's I don't know. Well, and it that begs the question. There's a lot of people out there that are talking about, you know, society now forces us to believe that men are the true born leaders. Like they're born with this ability to lead. And I'm like, have you ever seen a man run a household very effectively? Like 90% of the time, the woman is running the show and the man is just taking orders of like,
Well, oh yeah, and the whole like, yeah, like I'll help, and I'm like, help?
make me a
You mean
list.
just
No.
do?
Yeah.
Oh man, like
Or if a man says I have to babysit my kids, red flag.
I would literally hear that out in the wild and be like, your kids? You mean just like parent? I absolutely have
Uh,
said that to a stranger because like I can't help it,
mhm.
and I'm like, and then the wife even kind of looked at me, and I'm like, I support you, girl. That's all there is.
Like, even if the wife is like defensive, deep down, she's like being thankful, like that you called him out, I'm sure.
Oh, I just, yeah, men suck and they're pussies. Like, and like I know we talked about Alex and like to talk about Crispin, like, so okay, so first, I think this is just my thought. I don't think we actually have a confirmation. I think the birth order for the Yornex family is Drake, Crispin, Felix, Amy. I don't know if that's correct.
Since,
That's how I feel about it. Especially because, Amy's like, Daddy. And I think that dad actually calls her princess too.
hmm
Um, so like I don't know, she just gives like baby vibes.
yeah.
Um, and then Drake is very cool and confident and like jokey. So that makes me think like he might be the oldest. And then Crispin is like trying really hard to get Drake's approval. That kind of feels like a middle child. And then Felix, because his girlfriend Z, like short black bob with bangs, like lots of eyeliner, like they both smoke. Like he makes me feel like maybe he's like the second middle child who's like kind of forgotten because like the other two boys were like at each other and Amy's a girl.
hmm
That's what it feels like to me. I
Yeah.
could absolutely be wrong.
You
Felix could be
could,
the oldest, but that's what it
yeah.
is in my head.
You could possibly switch Amy and Felix, but I think Crispin and Felix, for them to be close enough to discuss this, I think you have to be closer in age. Like they probably went through the same stuff at the same time. They both hate Drake. They both want the money. And I know Crispin is like dying to get his father's favor, and he's not getting it. So it's definitely middle child syndrome.
Yeah,
But
so
I mean, for the other one, I think it's a little bit more flushed out. Like it's obviously Daniel, Alex, and Emily because they talk about, Daniel protected Alex the first hide and seek, you know,
mm-hmm.
and then Emily was like, I wasn't even around for that. I don't even remember any of that. So That one is a little more obvious.
Hmm. And then like to compare Alex and Crispin, okay, so both middle children,
Hmm.
both like seeking favor, don't have like a solid footing within their family unit, have found love in a non-traditional way for their family's expectations. I would say Crispin, even though he comes off like, oh, I'm just like a bright-eyed, bushy-tail, like used to be fat guy, like
I'm an
I
intellectual.
I'm
I
cool, like I'm nice, I'm sweet. Like he has the face that you would think he's like more of a sweetheart. That's how they get you.
hmm
That's how they get you. So
It's
the
those
fact,
baby face bitches that get you.
hate him. The fact that he set all this up, and then it's the fact that he skedaddled out of his own dastardly plot and then came back to it and was like, oh, well, okay. That's why I think he's like worse. He's
Hmm
less likable, I think, top to bottom, and in terms of like entertainment and engaging and being relatable and like his feelings. Like I think like the brother like bickering thing, I think that's just like funny. I don't think that
hmm
men should experience any pleasure, so them fighting and like being dissatisfied brings me joy.
Alex has a backbone, and I can appreciate that. Whereas Crispin is a flip-flopper, and I hate that.
Flip flopper, flip flopper.
He flip-flopped. Depending on who he's talking to, is how he's gonna act and how he's gonna spin his story. Whereas Alex is like, I'm out of this fucking family. I don't need you guys. But this girl wants to get married, so I guess I have to deal with you. But then right after this, we're skedaddling again. So like he had tried to like move on and do his own thing without killing his family. So I'll give him that, I guess.
I think if we were speaking about them as real people, not characters who have a plot for the movie designed to entertain us, if Grace had pulled anything else, they would have just zipped. I don't know if and or when Alex might have told Grace, like, whoo, good thing you didn't pull hide and seek. We would have had to kill you.
And then she thought it maybe it was a joke
So,
until the nephews get married in 30 years.
I mean, I don't know if Daniel and Emily told their spouses at any point, and they were both just like bad enough people to be like, well, we'll see.
I think
Or like once you know,
Daniel,
like, do you get like a possessed kind of feeling where you're like, oh, I'm in this, like I'm on this side,
I
kind
think
of like
Daniel
movement.
Yeah, I think Daniel did tell Charity because I remember him mentioning to her, like, do you remember when I told you about it and you were all for it? Like she was well aware, like she was in it from the money from the get-go. She did not care what she had to do. She was gonna do it.
I wonder. Okay, so Daniel is played by Adam Brody. He's pretty much like the most famous person between both movies commercially. Um, and so the very first scene of Ready or Not is little children, Daniel and Alex, like running through their house. Daniel puts Alex in a closet. I don't really know why, because it's not like he really would have been in danger, but he did. I guess maybe
Mhm.
just to protect him from like seeing it. I don't think it's like protecting him, it's protecting him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like
hmm
internal trauma protection
Right.
versus physical danger.
Physically, yeah.
Um, and then we have discovered Aunt Helene's new husband running through the house asking Daniel for help because he has been shot with an arrow. And then Daniel's like, he's in here, he's in here. Aunt Helene is trying to save her new husband. I think his name is Charles, but the family like holds her back. And then we just know Charles gets got.
Hmm.
Apparently, that moment has carried through Daniel's whole life, and he is an alcoholic now. And he does make like a couple jokes to Alex and Grace before they get married about like, like you should leave, like we're fucked up. I wonder also if Daniel finding a partner in Charity who was like down to be a baddie and Daniel's like struggling with that. I wonder if that like is a piece of contention between them. And I also wonder if maybe that's why they don't have children because he's the oldest, but Emily's the only one with kids, and her kids are maybe like, well, she's got
8.
two kids, so maybe like between 6 and 10 total.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, their
just a
relationship.
point.
Yeah, I feel like Daniel probably found Charity and just was like, "You want a lot of money? I have it. Just make my life easier, or whatever." And then take it. I don't know. They don't really talk about their relationship other than like, you know what I came from, blah blah blah. So maybe they started out normal, and he knew that she's had a rough beginning,
So,
so she was hardened at least, and that she would survive like whatever it was.
you are a tough fucking bitch who will always survive because you do what you need to. That's a quote from Succession and the mantra I have been carrying with me. Um, but I
I
mean,
think.
I get that. I mean, we don't get very much of the family themselves or like any hints of their normal lives outside of
Mm-mm.
this one day. But it's
Which,
just something to think about.
yeah, the Aunt Helene's husband being murdered definitely, I think, changed her, hardened her, that's for sure, because
'Cause she's a
from the
bitch.
looks of it, she looked very innocent and, loving, but now she's just a hardened cunt. Like Aunt Helene is, I would say, if she was a smidge less crazy and mean, maybe she could be cool. She's like almost a cool aunt, but she's too much of a bitch.
She's so evil. Like, and like she's just sitting in a chair when Grace is like walking around before the ceremony, and she's just glaring at her. And then before the game thing when Emily arrives, I don't know, Aunt Helene says something, and then Emily's like, "Oh, hi, Aunt
Mm-hmm.
Helene." Like obviously there's some past.
Yeah.
And Aunt Helene, she's like, "Brown-haired niece, you continue to exist." And it's funny, but she's also very one-dimensional as a character for
There's
the
no
most of
growth.
the movie. She's just, we gotta do what we gotta do. And I imagine because she was so affected by her husband dying, like she probably never tried to remarry. I don't know even what the rules would be for
Right.
marrying again if you only get like one shot. Um, but I mean, for that, I mean, her family up until, Charity or Fitch, whichever one of them got married into the family first, her sacrifice allowed the family to continue on for the next 20, 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
however they were.
Which she's got zero heart and she grow no growth throughout this movie. Like I think some people changed, Alex changed, Grace changed, um,
Daniel kind of
Daniel
changed.
changed a little bit, Charity did not. Emily and Fitch, they're just happy to be there, honestly. Like they one of the
Fitch
things.
Fitch is the closest to like he's like definitely comic relief, like pretty much the whole thing, like the bathroom crossbow
Mhm.
video. And then he's the one at the end. He's like, "Well, what do we do with Grace? Because
Yeah.
we survived the night. Like, what do we do?"
Yeah, and he's like
He,
guarding the window, texting his friend, like, "What's up, bro? How's it going?" Da, da, da. As she falls through, and he's like, "Huh?" Like, just not doing well at his job.
I think Charity, she definitely takes it more seriously. She's a lot colder. Fitch is kind of like, "Hey, I mean, all I had to do was play old maid. Like, I'm down. I'm fine."
Amy's just on, or Emily, sorry. Emily's just on drugs and an idiot. So,
Yeah. And she's
well,
on like fun drugs. Like she's on like all the uppers. So it's like I kind of feel like with her, it's just for fun and opportunity and access and privilege. I don't she for what we know, she hasn't experienced anything to be like, I need to escape. Or maybe it's possible that like just the weight of knowledge of her family's like curse makes her, I don't know. I think I'm giving her too
or
much credit.
the stress of the night. Maybe she was like, I need to get into the
Or
getting
maybe she
get
is
in
the
the
only one with kids, so she knows she's gonna have to mother them
mm.
through this one day. I'm
You know,
giving them a lot of options for her.
let's talk about the kids because Ready or
Let's
Not is the
not
only one that
fuck them.
had grandchildren, right? There were no grandchildren in Your Next. Um, but the irony, okay, so collecting my thoughts. I almost said my brains. Um, so Emily and Fitch have two children together. Clara is taking care of them. That's one of the servants. And Georgie goes missing. So Clara goes to look for him. That's why she got shot in the face. Um, so Georgie is MIA throughout the majority of this movie. He left along or early on in the movie. Later on in the movie, after a lot has happened, Grace escapes the mansion and she goes into a goat barn, which at night would be kind of creepy because goats can be creepy,
Don't,
aka Black
don't.
Phillip.
Mm-mm.
Anyway,
More Satan.
uh, one of these days I will get goats, okay? But they will not be devil goats, okay?
How can
Um,
you tell?
I will bless them as they come onto the farm.
Gotcha.
And if they start sizzling, no good. I don't know. Anyway, so Grace is out in the barn and Georgie finds her or she finds Georgie. They run across each other. And she's like, "Oh my God, like, can you help me?" Da da da. And this kid who's like 8 or 10, I have no idea, just pulls out a gun and shoots her in the hand. So she has a giant hole through her palm. And my favorite part of the movie is she looks at her hand and then she just decks the kid and knocks him clean out. And I was like, you know what? This is the realest part of this movie because if this kid is shooting at me, I'm knocking him out. Like that's all there is to it. But then she gets scared by a goat, falls into a pit of dead bodies and dead goats. Um, and there, which one of them was Charles, the husband to Aunt Helene. So
And you can
fun
tell that
stuff.
because he has like the arrows sticking out of his
Mm-hmm.
skeleton the same
Yeah.
way.
Which I'm like, do y'all not clean this out? Do you not burn bodies around
It's
here?
just a pit.
Like,
Throw it in and
it's
forget it.
it's gross. Nasty.
There should have been more flies in there.
For sure. Or maggots, or like that's really when her dress got dirty. Ugh. But when I had to pause the movie because when she was coming up the like ladder and you can see the nail that's like sticking there, I'm like, I know what's gonna happen. I can't watch. I would tell Yuri, I'm like, I'm turning the movie off right now. Like I can't. Ugh. When she sticks her hole in her hand, I don't know what you call it, on the nail to pull herself up, I was like, let me die.
The first time I watched that, I thought it was so obvious because they're like showing the nail like back and forth while she's climbing. I thought that she was gonna avoid it, and then she didn't. And I was like, oh no. I was just like, nah, come on. And I'm like, well, this is
Yeah,
really the worst day of her life. So actually do it.
truly. Not even day, just 6 to 7 hours. I don't know. Depends on what time of the year it was, on when the sun rises. So, I don't
Yep.
even know where are they in California? Are they in
I have no idea.
But anyway, so she faces off with the child in the goat barn and then climbs out, gets out. Later on, Daniel and Emily find Georgie in the barn and are like, prior to that, they were discussing like why they have to kill her, all this other stuff. Like, he's like, he's like, who cares if we die? Like, we all deserve to die anyway. Like, we're all shit. Like, da 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 da. And she goes, well, my children don't deserve to die. And when the kid wakes up, they're like, Georgie, what happened? He's like, I shot her, blah, 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 because that's what you guys were doing, and that's what I was supposed to do. And Emily's like, oh, good job. That's a psychopath. Yes, thank God your child exploded in the end.
Hmm.
Done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's kind of the thing, like, the generational trauma, like things are handed down. And then like you get the boy mom aspect. She's like, oh, it's okay. Like, I still love you. Like, you did a
Mm-hmm.
good job. Because the kids, he's just trying to do like what his family is
Yeah.
doing. And they're all bad people. So that's just what you get.
Well, and at one point, because for the most part, Alex doesn't seem to be affected too much by his family's, like, by his upbringing and his family trauma and things like that. But towards the end, when he's like, well, when you realize it's not normal to drink goat's blood and this, like when you step outside of your family and you realize, oh, those aren't normal things, it kind of like gets to you. I'm like, because they said, if your family says it's okay. I'm like, not everybody's family is smart enough to be making those kinds of decisions. Okay. We need a general consensus, and the general consensus says murder bad. No murder, please. No sacrifice, no murder.
Yeah. Well, and I think them bringing up the goats. So like, I don't know if that's an every year thing, but like they're sacrificing goats when they don't have a hide and seek card. So then I'm just like, is that every year they have to sacrifice a goat? Is
Mm.
it just like if you don't pull a hide and seek card when someone gets married, then you just sacrifice the goat instead of the person? Like, what are the rules?
Yeah, they
But
really didn't go into like they went into the lore, the backstory, but they didn't get into specifics of what the contract said.
so and so much of this is told through like Grace's knowledge anyway. So like it's fine that we don't know that, but everybody must be down with whatever they're doing because they've got to keep the money train chewing.
Hmm. I do think we got a decent amount of like if we compare fathers of Ready or Not and You're Next, like Tony from Ready or Not is very much like in charge. This is what we're doing. This is how the family's supposed to be, things like that. Whereas Paul, he's not a Satan worshiper and doesn't have a contract with the devil, so maybe he's a little more relaxed, but he's just a normal dude, in my opinion. He gives off a little bit of the rich dad vibe of I'm disappointed in you because you're not like also rich kind of thing. Um,
Self-made.
yeah, which random thing, but some girl posted, and this is just, I think sometimes parents are out of touch with what life is really like as a younger adult nowadays because like they've set themselves up in a way that like they're okay right now. And it's like we're in the process of trying to set things up and it is awful. But a lot of people think we're just not trying that hard. I'm like, have you done the math? This girl on TikTok asked her dad, like, if I was going to go to the movies today, how much money would you give me to go to the movies? And he's like, well, I figure, $5 for the ticket. And then if you wanted some popcorn, I guess another $3. So I'd be like $8 to $10 could get you like good for the movie or whatever.
How old was this
You
dad?
not stepped out of the house? 60?
What?
65? I'm like, have you not been to the movie since 1980? Since 2000?
Yeah, I mean, like, my parents in particular, like, aren't movie theater patrons, but they're they're aware of some things. I wish they would
Mm-hmm.
understand what the job market is like. And you
Oh my
can't just,
God.
walk in, show them your resume. They're definitely those people,
Oh my God. It's,
but
oh, yeah.
they know things are expensive.
The job market is trash right now. And it's, if you have a decent job with like a decent company, consider yourself one of the lucky ones, in my opinion. Like, I feel that I am lucky because my job allows flexibility. I have a nice boss. We get along. I get my stuff done. Like, I'm good to go. As long as they don't hate me and fire me at one point. Which sometimes I joke just to test her. But she says that she's like, no, what would I do without you? I'm like, just make sure you're not slipping.
I do the same thing. I have a standing one-on-one every Friday, and
Friday's
90
a terrible one-on-one date. Are you kidding me?
isn't it though? Um, and 95% of the time my boss cancels it. Like sometimes he'll message me and be like, "Hey, like, do you have anything you want to go over? Any questions? Anything you need?" And if I say no, he just cancels it. Sometimes he just cancels it. But then when I see it, I mean, and every month we do like a check-in on metrics. So when it gets towards the end of the month, I'm checking on it. He, I knew we were supposed to do one last Friday because this Friday is Black Friday. Um, but then it's like 10 minutes before, and he's like, "Oh, hey, like I gotta jump on a call. Like, I'll just send you your stuff." And I'm like, "Well, as long as you're not firing."
Yeah.
And he literally just sends me like at least one a week. I think I probably got two that day, like eye roll emojis. He's just like, "Oh my God." Even though I know like I'm the most tenured on his team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the better adjusters in my department. So
You
I
have a
don't
trauma
feel
though.
at risk, but like, but what if?
It I mean, it doesn't hurt for them to just, what's the word?
Reassure me.
Yes.
Just tell
Because
me every single day, maybe every hour on the hour, that I'm not getting fired, and then maybe I'll calm down.
throwback to when I was working at Rachel's house with her on a Friday.
Stop.
Um,
Jesus. Have we told? I'm sure we've told that story. Long
I don't
story
remember.
short, it was July 7th, 2023, night one of the Eras tour in Kansas City. I was so excited. I didn't even have tickets in the morning, but like I knew I was going to that concert. And then Katrina and we just took like a 5 minute break from co-working at my house and went to go check the mail. And then as I'm walking back, I got a little ping that's like, "Are you free for a call?" And then we came back and I was sitting at my desk and she was sitting on the side of the desk. And then I got fired for no fucking reason. That's kind of a
You know what?
bitch back to them. I was like, okay, so what about the times you were talking about my metrics being really good
Mm-hmm.
and having the highest calls and all of the communication about the way that you guys are restructuring and how my job is safe. And then you're doing this. And they're just like, the decision's been made. Because I know that they were just like fucking up because they had fired so many
Mm-hmm.
people. Um, and they were trying to like do stuff. Like I just know like honestly like the company probably was going under. I've done some check-ins and I think there's only like one and a half recruiters
Oh
there.
wow.
So
Well, and I considered recording it, but then I was like, no, this might be a serious thing. Let's not record it.
can't get any more serious than that. Should we compare and contrast like the twists
I would
between
like to
the two
talk about
movies?
twists. Yeah.
The
Right.
twist in your next. Okay, so there are three guys that are wearing like little animal masks, like, just like slip-on masks that we have seen at various points, and they're the ones who are killing the family. Um, and Erin is like booby trapping the house and, just trying to do whatever she can to save as many people as she can. But plot, everybody's got to die. The twist in your next is Felix and his girlfriend Z have gone upstairs to, quote unquote, look around the house and then check on Felix's dad. And then they do meet and they're just like fine, they're moving. And then the dad gets his throat slit and he reaches for Felix, like his boy. And Felix is like, ugh, get off me. And then I think it's the lamb mask guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's just like, they're just standing there together. And then Felix is like, did you have to do that right in front of me? And we're all just like, sorry, what? So,
Well, can I say,
of
I
course you
don't,
can. It's your podcast. You can say whatever you want.
you're right. I own 50% of this company. Um, I get it, but I don't love the trope of like the quote unquote what people would consider like weirdos, like gothic, not your normal rich kid vibe ones are the ones that are like, these are the ones killing the family because they don't care, blah, blah, blah. Goth people have a very soft heart, okay? They don't just want to kill for money.
I also resent, I'm trying to be like, how much information do I get?
Oh my gosh.
I resent the fact that like I'm super emo and people judge me for it because I'm also super femme and very blonde. And I'm like, excuse me, I am the darkness. So just to put that in there, like I'm mean too.
It's called duality,
Yeah,
okay?
thank
Look
you.
it up.
I'm a
Mhm.
complex character. So
I'm
I
not.
appreciate that. Do you think that it makes it better for you? Because at this point, until almost like the very, very end, we think it's just Felix and Z who have set this up some way. Aaron does overhear Felix talking to one of the masked men about their shares increasing because Aaron killed one of them. So she has now figured out Felix and Z are also the enemy. She's got to do
Yeah.
whatever she can to survive. Does it make it better for you when there's like another reveal when Crispin calls Felix's cell phone after Aaron's killed them very creatively? Um, that he's like, "Oh, is it over? Is it done? Like, I got my cell phone signal back because they had like some cheap jammers thing."
Mm-hmm.
Does it make you feel better that like it's not just the outlier?
It's also the goody two shoes, like
Yeah.
professor. Yeah, a little bit. Um, I will say though that Drake, even though he's a jerk, called it when he was like, when the cell phones weren't working and um Felix was like, "Oh, I bet they have one of those jammers. It's like $30 on the black market. They're illegal." And he's like, "You're behind this because how would you know that weird ass shit? Blah blah blah." I'm like, I don't
But
think he kind of called
see,
it.
and that's one of those things that's like played off super well because you're getting all the sibling bickering. So he's like, "How the fuck would you even know that?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Well,
such a tell. And watching the movie, like when Crispin goes in the house like the first time. Okay, so back to the beginning of your next. The mom and dad arrive at the house. It's been like the sheets are everywhere to like protect all the furniture from dust, and they just get there and they're just cleaning up the house, getting it ready to have people over. Crispin and Aaron get there that night. But before they get there, the mom, Aubrey, she's like cleaning something in the kitchen and like the chandelier moves on the ceiling above her, like something has crashed on the floor above. And then Paul comes in the room and she's like, "Were you just upstairs?" And he's like, "No, I was turning the furnace on in the basement." And she's like, someone's in the house. We gotta go." This is a movie of very smart people too. She's like, I'm out of here. Goodbye."
mm-hmm.
And Paul's like, "Okay, like you wait outside. I'm gonna go inspect the house because of course." And then he's looking around the upstairs, and then you get a little jump scare that Crispin comes in and has found his dad. And then they like break it with like, why is mom crying outside?
Mm-hmm.
And then the boys leave to go outside and be like, the house is fine. We do see like Crispin has pulled his dad out of a specific room, and then like the door moves a little bit, so like we know there really is someone there. But Crispin's got crazy eyes, like he's like
Mm-hmm.
looking, and he's like
I didn't
looking at a
notice
couple
that.
things. Watching it this time, it just was like it's so obvious. Like he's like
Right.
looking around in the way that like he's talking about stuff. He's like, oh God, oh God, oh God. Like you can just see like the regret all
Mm-hmm.
over him, but it comes off
Like
acting
worried.
naturally like, oh no.
Yeah.
So, and this is one of the things, like, I think the movies are both really, really well done and well executed
Mm-hmm.
because you have that, versus Ready or Not. They know, they're like, well, we got a killer. Here we go. No secret, no surprises. So I think that the twist in Your Next is much more emotionally effective
Mm-hmm.
because you're like, oh shit, like it's Felix who's doing all this. God, we hated Felix anyway. Now he's just extra bad. And then, like, not that I like Crispin, but then you're like, oh, fucking hell.
Mm-hmm. He was supposed to be one of the good ones. I hated him from the beginning, to be honest.
It's because of his dumb face.
Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, what do you consider the twist in Ready or Not?
So I feel like the twist, the plot twist, is that the curse is real. So you get that in the final couple minutes of the movie.
Okay, I agree. Because that's what I was thinking. Like, in terms of twist, there isn't like the hide and seek is given to you in the very beginning. So it's like
Hmm.
we as the audience are aware of that. So like for us, the twist isn't that. And I don't think the twist is Alex turning his back on Grace either. Like, oh, the whole time Alex was going to save her, now he's going to kill her. I don't really think that's much, but them actually exploding cracked me up and I loved it. And I think that's the twist. It's like, oh, they weren't crazy, like this shit was real. So, okay, I agree with
Yeah.
you. Wasn't sure what you would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the like most emotional turn is when Alex turns on Grace. But I agree. I don't think that that's a plot twist. It's just like, oh fuck. I think for both movies, you get like, and this is a line that Grace says like at the end. She's like, "Fucking rich people," like,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody. I mean, except for what I thought was happening after I saw Longlegs. Like, no one's trying to break in my house. No one wants anything that I have. I guess my car did get broken into a few years ago, and that kind of like affected me.
I do
Um,
remember that.
yeah, I hated it. But it's like there's almost not enough that these movies should always be like in conversation with each other, but I feel like it's just so common that even though these movies were created almost a decade apart, like there is just enough where you have like the final girl just trying to survive a night with a rich family that like
Yeah.
you get the conversation pieces. And we really haven't talked that much about like each thing. Like something I want to bring up that I feel like is like fun for us to discuss, like in Your Next, where um the mom has been killed. She gets taken upstairs after Amy's death because she's just, losing it. That's her baby. And she gets taken upstairs just to like lie down. She does get killed. And then Felix and Z, end up in that room because they're looking around for, the other assailants. And then they're just sitting in the bed with a dead mom. And Z like climbs up on Felix and like she's trying to kiss him and like start something. And he's like, whoa, whoa, like, don't you think we can do this? And she's like, no, like, she's being all freaky. And she's like, fuck me in the bed with your dead mom. And Felix does say, like, no, but I
Yeah.
mean, look, discuss. Go on.
I which I think it draws a parallel between Charity and Z.
Because they both got fuck ass bobs.
That too. I didn't even think about that. They are kind of like cold, callous women who marry into a rich family and
Well, I think Z's
kind
just
of
a
like,
girlfriend, but same diff.
well, yeah, they're a significant other, who comes into a rich family, most likely with the intent for the money, and they're very cold and callous, and like it shows. Like Z was willing to kill whoever. Charity killed her own husband. So I feel like those two characters are very similar.
That's true.
For
Very
sure.
good point.
But Felix and Daniel, opposites. Felix was trying to kill them. Daniel was trying to save Grace. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then too, how you were bringing up similarities between Amy and Emily, like they're both like daddy's little princess, and they're both trying to like earn the respect of their peers. Amy's like, I can run fast, I can do it, daddy. And then Emily has killed two people accidentally, and she's like, I know what I'm doing. And the dad in Ready or Not, Tony, he's like, I know, baby, like it's okay. It's just funny. So I mean, okay. There are some similarities.
I mean, there are a lot of differences. The stark difference is the family itself is in it together to kill one person versus part of a family is in it to kill the rest of the family and leave the one person alive. Both women just end up living.
Yeah.
So that's the plot is different in those terms. But when it comes to when I picture these movies in my head, it's all these rich ass people along this long table having dinner and talking about stupid things, and then them just getting annihilated in this giant mansion that is entirely too big and crazy.
Well,
There are differences, definitely, but you can draw a lot of parallels too. I do think that these movies kind of prove a little bit of, well, maybe not. I don't know. Like the nature versus nurture debate of like, is someone born bad or is the way that they are raised throughout their life make them bad? Which, like, in Ready or Not, it looks like being raised in a bad family tends to make you bad or more tolerant of bad things happening.
I
Whereas in your
think,
next, it's like a 50-50. Like Drake and Amy were decent, whereas Felix and Crispin were shit.
yeah, I think, I mean, you could argue that for Ready or Not, Daniel knew his family was shitty and he was negatively affected by it. Alex, for all intents and purposes, ran away, and
Mhm.
Emily has turned to drugs. So they're dealing with things in their own way. In
Yeah, but
your
I would
next, it
consider,
just feels like, oh, this is like our normal life. We just happen to have money.
yeah, I feel like with Daniel and Emily and Alex, it's like in Ready or Not, it's more of like they tolerate the violence because that's what they've been taught and that's how they keep their money, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I mean, there's also like the looming threat that like Satan will kill you and your entire family if you don't do this. So, I mean, meh.
mhm. Which if you grew up being told that, like religious trauma is very strong. So I get it. Like the fear that they feel is real.
And then you have like we kind of talked about this, but we I feel like we've kind of like, extracted as much as we can for the purpose of our topics of comparing these two movies. It's like we talked about like what happens next? Like, I mean, I guess we're gonna get an answer because there's a Ready or Not 2 that's gonna come out. But like with your next, Aaron got shot, that cop's gonna die. That cop did ask for backup, but like they're gonna find the masked people
Mm-hmm.
that are in, like tech gear
And the neighbors.
and the neighbors, and Aaron can say,
And text messages, probably, maybe.
Aaron can say, like, they came in and tried to kill everybody. I mean, I don't know if it even does any good for her to be like, yeah, Felix and Crispin playing this whole thing out. I just found out about it. I don't think that the cops are going to think that she's orchestrated all of this.
No,
And
because she
also, she doesn't
benefits
have
nothing.
any stake in anything because she wasn't a family member.
Well,
So
her
it's just
only
like,
saving. Oh, sorry.
say
Go
it,
ahead.
say it. She's got her saving grace from the other movie.
Yeah, her only saving grace is that the policeman who saw her shoot Crispin died with an axe to the forehead. So like there's no proof that she killed him unarmed or whatever. Sad for him. Maybe don't run into houses until your backup gets there. I don't know. I
Well,
don't
I
know
mean,
what police are
and that's
supposed
the
to do.
thing. That's the thing. Like the cop was like in the window. He didn't announce himself. Even and it's hard. I give him credit because you just saw somebody shoot someone else. They're armed and dangerous.
Hmm.
Shoot first, ask questions later. And he only incapacitated her. He shot her in the
Right.
shoulder, so like he was a good shot. But and she was also like yelling like because they was in like the living room window and he was walking around to the front door and she was like, don't open the door, like she was like, don't
Yeah.
don't like he could have when she fell said anything.
Well, the window was open. He could have crawled through the window
I mean, he could have talked to
because
her.
he, in my opinion, if I shoot somebody, I want to keep eyes on them, and me walking around to the front door gives them an
Ooh,
opportunity to like leave and run away. No, I'm watching you and I'm crawling through the window and I'm putting handcuffs on you. Like,
that's true.
yeah. So I don't know. I think it was a bad police work in my opinion.
Well, and then he opens the door and moves through. If he had opened the door and like moved to the side, not that you
Right.
specifically think there's a booby trap with a spring-loaded axe, but if you
Right.
just open the door, then the axe would have fallen.
If I see a bunch of dead bodies, I'm opening the door with caution. I'm opening it and I'm waiting. I'm looking.
So
I
great
don't.
ending to a movie,
Sure.
but like,
Absolutely.
come on, dude.
Kind of his fault. Not to victim blame, but what were you wearing when you got an axe to the face?
Oh, and then I mean, we don't know what the sequel to Ready or Not's gonna be, but
I
there,
imagine I'll hate it.
I just really don't know. So Grace she did like escape the house, but then she got pulled back, and then they're putting her on the table and they're doing their whole like ritual, Hail Satan, but Daniel quote unquote
Poisons.
poisoned
Hmm.
his family as they drink like this cup of blood. I think it's like goat blood. I don't even know what it
Hmm.
is. They're drinking something out of a goblet and passing it around. And then all of a sudden, one by one, they're just like getting sick. So Grace runs away. And then Daniel catches up with her. And then she was like, "You did that. Like you were helping me." Because she had tried to ask him for help a few times because he's like reluctant to the family mission, but he
Yeah, he's
never
not.
like fully helped her because he just like didn't kill her kind of.
Hmm.
So he did like actually help her. You kind of think like maybe they're both going to be able to get out and escape. Then Charity comes in, kills Daniel for like him choosing leaving the family over staying with her with the family. Daniel dies after Alex finds Grace, killing the mom, Becky, after they had like a sentimental moment about both being outsiders coming in. But she's like, I choose my family over you, buddy. Bye. So
Hmm.
Grace has to do that. Alex turns on her, helps drag her back because they're going to do the ritual for real. And then the sun comes up. So everybody who's still alive, if the family is in that room, terrified, they think maybe it's not real. And then Aunt Helene is gonna kill Grace. Explosion, fish explodes. Emily takes her two kids and runs out the door, like the hall door, and then you see
Hmm.
like boom, 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 explosion, which I did see on the kill count. People were talking about like that was like really tasteful that like we didn't watch the children explode. And I'm like, I could fucking watch the news and see that right now. So
Hmm.
fuck you, movie.
Yeah, like you
Um,
don't actually see like it's just like they pop and it's like so it's like sure it's gory because it's like blood and stuff like that, but like it's not like watching somebody like being cut and like it's like they just go boop like a bubble.
yeah, it's very
It's
cheeky.
and it's not like torturous. It's like it's instantaneous. They die.
Oh yeah, like yeah,
So if
yeah,
anything, it was mercy that they didn't have to go.
yeah.
What they did to Grace is worse. What Grace went through is worse than just exploding.
Oh yeah. If I could choose it, I'll explode. That's fine.
Yeah, pop
That's
me like a
okay.
pimple. Boop, I'm done.
And then Alex is the only one left for a minute. And Aunt Helene had said something like Alex is the only one who's seen Mr. LaBelle in his chair at some point in his youth. And he's like, I'm so sorry. Like, we can like try again. And she's like, fuck you. He explodes. She, at this point, is covered in her own blood, dirt, now everybody else's blood. Like, she is wrecked. Like, maybe Carrie didn't even have as much blood on her as this girl does. And then she's like, fuck. And then she goes outside and
Oh,
well, go ahead, what?
well, so right before, like after everybody explodes, the fireplace like kind of like poofs, like shoots out flames, and she sees Mr. LaBelle in his chair.
Oh,
And she
that's
kind of goes
right.
like, "Oh," and then then she goes outside. So I don't know if they're gonna take that into the next movie because I'm assuming the curse can't be passed on. She survived, so does that mean like it trans? Surely not. She didn't sign nothing. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean,
but
and
she
that's
saw
just like the
him.
question about what's gonna happen. Like, okay, so yes, she does see Mr. LaBelle and he like kind of winks at her or something, and
Hmm.
that's when she's like, fuck. So like this is like
Yeah.
for real, real shit. And then she goes outside covered in blood. The house is also on fire from something else that happened, like a candelabra fell down. The police are arriving because when she was trying to escape in a car, she was talking to like the OnStar person and was like, call the police, call the police, call the police. The police are arriving and she's like sitting outside on the steps, like smoking. And then this cop comes and it's like, what happened? And then she, does like the movie line, in-laws. And then the movie cuts. But like,
Now I will say, I love that she took the mother's cigarette case because she complimented it earlier in the movie. She's like, "Oh, that's a beautiful like cigarette case or whatever." And the mom's like, "Do you smoke?" And she's like, "No." Well, she does, but like she took the case and like it was Becky's cigarettes that she was smoking, and I'm like, fair enough.
amazing.
Not gonna
Perfect.
smoke them anymore.
Forgetting the fact that there's a second movie, it's like, well, okay, well, what's gonna happen next? I mean, she was married, but what's she gonna say? Like,
Right,
I
but
feel
if
like there's too much in there. Like, I don't think anyone's gonna think, especially because beyond the fire, like, there's no structural damage to that house. I don't think she thinks anyone's gonna think she caused a bunch of explosions
well, another thing, there are no bodies. There's tons of blood, but like you
and
can't
mush.
prosecute. Yeah, I guess they could do DNA testing to see like who died in there and stuff like that if they have their DNA, or they can see that their brother, sister, uncle, aunt, they explode. Like they just exploded. Like how do you, as a police officer or like a forensic or like a mortician, how do you write that? Like what do you, spontaneous combustion? Are you kidding me? No one's gonna believe that.
I don't know. I think
Because like Stevens was dead in the car. Maids, they threw them into the goat pit. Maybe they'll find the goat pit and see the dead body of the older man, the goats, the dead servants, and maybe they'll believe a little bit of her story.
I I don't know. I don't know. Like I truly have no idea because especially if you're bringing Grace back, what's more of her story that I'm gonna give a shit about for a movie? Like this movie was so like in out boom flip of a story, like a true like story idea, and then it just
You know
is what it
what?
is. So
Yeah, it's where like sure she lived, but like the story wasn't about Grace so much as it was about the story of the Le Domas family worshiping the devil and trying to perform their ritual.
that's
So,
what the plot of it was and her
yeah.
surviving it. So I'm
So
like,
like
I
is
don't
she
know, dude.
gonna
Like
sign a contract with Mr. LaBelle and like is she so traumatized that she makes a deal with the devil and continues like something ritualistically? I
we
don't
we
know.
have no other characters like everybody but her died, and then you get the cops that you don't even see their faces for.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's gonna swing around to be involved. Like, it's just her. So I have no idea. And it's hard for me to say because I really, 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 really liked Ready or Not. They're the creators is that Radio Silence production, and they've done like a VHS thing and like a couple other things, but they also did Scream 5 and 6. And like I can't see that. I truly hate those movies. And I've tried like rewatching them and I just don't like it. If I hadn't seen Ready or Not before I saw and disliked Scream 5 and 6, I'm not sure that I would be interested in watching anything else that they come up with. Like, I just like I know some people really like Scream 5 and 6, but like just watching them as movies, I just think that they suck.
None of me is jumping for joy or excited about a sequel to Ready or Not. I am excited for the Creep Chronicles coming out. I don't know what they're called, but Creep is coming out with a
Creep tapes.
series. Creep
Yeah, I
tapes.
think the first couple might be out on Shudder, and maybe if we had people subscribe to our Patreon, we could you afford Shudder and then like research things that people want to listen to. I don't know that there's really much else that we can talk about. We've talked
I
about
mean,
these movies for like 2 hours.
yeah, we could summarize just like, oh no, we've summarized this thing so many times. I don't
We've
even think.
summarized it. I
Basically, money
it's
makes people act differently than they normally would if they didn't have it. Sure.
yeah, it brings different problems in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody's killing anyone in my family because we got like secret money. We ain't got no money.
No, that's not happening. If I ever
Oh,
win the lottery, I'm not telling anybody for a
mm-mm.
while
Oh
or at
no,
all.
I
I'm
disappear.
gonna keep I'm gonna keep my job for a few months. I'm gonna get things lined up. I'm not telling like my wife is the only one that's gonna know. And she don't talk to she Rachel, I will tell you when the time is right. Oh, Mr. LaBelle.
It's like
My camera just shut.
it just went like whoop.
The little flap. Um, but yeah, I will tell you with gifts. You'll know. Okay.
Get to go to a special taping of like the Love is Blind reunion or something.
Yes.
And you'd be
Or
like, that's how you know.
we go on like a horror movie cruise or something like that, and
You're like, I
we do
got
a
this.
pod. And yeah, and I'm like, I bought us 1,000 subscribers. Like,
Perfect, perfect,
I'm gonna
perfect.
create our own Patreon. People, is that
Great.
allowed? I don't know. Anyway, regardless,
For terms of the future and things that we can control and can talk about, what movie are we going to do for December?
we talked prior years of doing Better Watch
Better watch out.
Out,
I knew you were going to say that.
and I really liked that movie. We didn't do it, so I think we just do Better Watch Out.
I think I'm totally fine with that. Other one is The Lodge. This came out a few years ago, but I remember like for a blip in time, it was really popular. I think it might be on Hulu.
Mhm.
Um, but I also was like, better watch out. It's perfect. We both like have seen it and researched it for the podcast that was just a couple years ago when we were not being as consistent. And it is very, very specific to our like
Women,
topics.
yeah.
So I'm in.
If I could punch a kid,
And that's a kid to punch.
that's a kid. No spoilers, but um. So I think if Better Watch Out is available for us to watch, that's what we're gonna
I
do. I doubt we will change this like we did last time because we were very unsure at the end of the October recording what we wanted to do. We were very wishy-washy for November. So
it worked out.
less chance of changes. Not that
Yeah.
anybody cares.
It's on Peacock. It's on Tubi,
Uh,
it's on Pluto, it's on
oh,
Sling and Plex, but it's
perfect.
on Peacock, so we can just like
Perfect.
whoosh.
Hmm.
So perfect. Great job. Thanks everybody for
Let
listening.
us let us know if you
Let
liked
it
this
snow, let
structure.
it snow, let it
No,
snow.
no snow. I don't want snow.
Oh, okay. Well,
It is almost December. Gross.
I know. And you only have a week to get this edited and posted.
Me? You said you were editing on Thanksgiving.
Well, that was before I had Thanksgiving plans. And I've also edited the last like 75 podcasts.
We don't even have 75 episodes, first of all.
It was like 75. I didn't say.
All right, I'll see what I can get done.
Oh, wouldn't it be hilarious if I did edit this and then I could just have let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, just to piss you off?
I have my mouse over your nose right now and I'm picking it.
Get in there, get
Yeah,
real
let me
deep.
clean that out for you real quick.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you guys for listening. We hope that you enjoyed our episode and we look forward to hearing from you.
Find us on Twitter or Instagram to request a movie or even just to discuss your thoughts at Booze and Boobs. Or send us an email, boozeandboobs@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we're working on turning this into a thing. So if you can please follow us on Patreon, our account there is Booze and Boobs also.
And what are some of the benefits to joining our Patreon?
Oh, Katrina, I am so glad that you asked. As a patron, you will get early release episodes, bloopers, mini episodes where we showcase scenes from the movies that we're talking about or just conversations that we're having that we had to cut from our recording.
All that and more. And they're fun tiers. You can be an A cup, a C cup, or you can join the Triple D Plus group like us.
We truly appreciate your support and we look forward to growing our following to create more content for listeners like you.
So we'll see you next time, or else.
Yeah, let's end it with a threat.